Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we are getting straight into things and talking about this man on screen here, Casemiro. Now the reason we're talking about Casemiro is because in the fan base over the past couple of weeks, particularly in pre-season, there's been a little bit of discussion kind of surrounding his weaknesses in his game, but also then people talking about his strengths, figuring out if it's an area which needs to be addressed in the team, if he's the right player, blah blah blah. It's a bit of a similar situation to Raphael Varane, who we were talking about the other week. And my opinion on it initially is the same. This is a world-class player we are talking about. I said it with Raphael Varane, and a lot of you seem to miss that part. I said Varane's incredible, and I do believe that. It's the same for Casemiro. For me, one of the best ball-winning midfielders that the world has ever seen. Not just currently, but at his peak. I think he's one of the best ball-winning midfielders world football has ever had. And I still think he is right up there. I still think he's very, very good. He probably has declined a little bit over the past couple of seasons, but I still think he is an incredible player. And he produces some really, really good numbers. Now, yes, there are some red bits on this FBref report, which we will come back onto. But look at the green. There is a lot of green here. Casemiro is still clearly a very good player. I mean, if we look towards the bottom there, defensively, he's still doing incredibly well, and he done very well for Manchester United last season. But, regardless of that, as with every player in world football, and in particular, every player in this Manchester United squad, Casemiro does have his weaknesses. He does have areas where he isn't as strong. And the problem that a lot of people have with him at the moment, based on what we've seen in pre-season, is that he does just give the ball away a little bit too often. His passing is too direct. Basically, if the pitch opens up in front of him and there is the slightest chance to play the ball forward, Casemiro's going to take that chance. And the problem is when you fail that pass, you give the ball to the opposition, you're leading to a lot of turnovers, less controlled football. We know that Ten Hag wants control. Casemiro isn't bringing that at the moment. So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order. Now some people will sit there and say, oh, that's just an agenda, or you're just using him as a scapegoat. But you can literally use the numbers to back it up. Now what we can still see is that there are a lot of green bars here still. Casemiro is still good at passing, but the problem is the pass completion rates. The pass completion rate in terms of his short passing, the 22nd percentile. The pass completion rate in terms of his medium passing, the 90th percentile. And the pass completion rate in terms of his long passing, the 47th percentile. So you can claim that this is an agenda, but it quite clearly isn't. He's still a good passer of the ball, still very good at passing the ball, still completes a lot of passes, moves the ball forward well. But his pass completion rate isn't very good. And like we've said already, the consequence of misplacing a pass is that the opposition get the ball, that opens you up to the counter-attack, which is not what you want. So that is something which Ten Hag needs to try and solve. Now the other problem which people are pointing to is a lack of press resistance, which I do agree with. When you're kind of playing out from the back from a goal kick, you go into Casemiro, he isn't great at receiving the ball in this area and playing on the turn. That is a problem, but I think it's one which can be masked, which we'll come on to a bit later. Because I think you can do that with Casemiro. He does have a couple of weaknesses. He's a bit too direct on the ball, and he isn't the most press resistant. His turning circle isn't very good. However, I think it is worth masking those things, because defensively, like I've said already, he's remarkable. He is so good, and his defensive FBref report backs it up. I mean, tackles the 96th percentile, tackles won the 90th percentile, dribblers tackled the 97th percentile, blocks the 99th, shots blocked, passes blocked the 98th, the 99th, tackles and interceptions the 96th percentile, clearances the 98th percentile. Over the past 365 days, he has been one of the best performing defensive midfielders in world football. Despite declining a little bit, he is still right up there, still so good at it. And that is worth keeping for Manchester United. He is brilliant at breaking up the transition, there's not many better in the world. But also, he's really good in defensive areas, in his own defensive third. He's very good at kind of shuffling across and putting tackles in to break up play on the edge of the box. But also, he's really important. When the ball goes wide and gets put into the box, Casemiro's box defence is brilliant. Really good. And when a lot of teams in the modern day are starting to attack with a front five, Casemiro's ability to do this is of high value to Manchester United, add the fact that he's really good in the air, whether in these situations or in the middle of the park, Casemiro still has so much to offer from a defensive point of view. So, in my opinion, what Erik ten Hag needs to do is figure out a way to use all of his strengths, which are, he is still a good passer, he can move the ball forward well, but defensively he's brilliant at breaking up transition, he's so good in the air, his leadership qualities as well are absolutely incredible. Ten Hag needs to find a way of kind of bringing all of that together, whilst also perhaps masking the fact that he isn't the most assured on the ball. He doesn't complete all of his passes, and also isn't press resistant. So how can Ten Hag do that? We'll start with when Manchester United are trying to build the ball out from goal kicks, because this is where some people have a criticism of Casemiro. Like we said already, if you're trying to play the ball from here to Casemiro in this position, he's not very good at it. He's not very good with his back to play. So how can you address this? Well, I actually think that Ten Hag's already gone some way to addressing this in pre-season with the structure that we have seen. Something which we have seen on occasion is Onana and Raphael Varane being in the box, and then Lisandro Martinez pushes forward alongside Casemiro. We know that Lisandro Martinez is very press resistant and very good on the turn. This takes the pressure off of Casemiro. The reliance on turning on the ball isn't as important here. The other thing is that Manchester United now have 6 players playing out from the back, and realistically, most teams only press with 4, which means that there is less pressure on Casemiro once again, and you can probably get the ball to him actually in open space. If you play the ball out down the left hand side, where United have their more press resistant players, I think you can use these players to kind of draw and resist the press, and then perhaps a bounce pass in the midfield to free Casemiro up. Because once he's then in these positions and facing forward, then we see the good side of his passing game. So this is a way in which United can kind of mask this and kind of get around this problem. The other thing they could do is move one of Mason Mount or Bruno Fernandes a little bit deeper at goal kicks. This was something which Real Madrid often done. They would push Casemiro a little bit further forward, Toni Kroos or Luka Modric would then drop deeper. We could see something similar. Perhaps here, when Lisandro Martinez is getting the ball in this situation, or Onana's got the ball, we could just see a gradual rotation where Casemiro kind of steps deeper, or steps higher, dragging the opposition player, as either Bruno Fernandes or Mason Mount makes the counter movement into this deeper position, probably freeing themselves up in a bit of space with Casemiro drawing the man, but also possessing greater technical ability on the turn to receive the ball in this area and play out from the back. So whilst Casemiro isn't ideal in these deeper areas where he's got to play out from the back, I don't think it is too big a problem at this moment in time. Especially if you bring someone like Dalot into the team who also covers some of that technical ability. I do think you can mask it, and I do think Ten Hag is capable of doing that. Now the other issue is a little bit more tricky in my opinion, because for this role you need to actually kind of coach and train Casemiro in a slightly different way. Because when United are in sustained possession, Casemiro is too direct. You can't hide the fact. Again, if we go back to the passing numbers from earlier, we can see that he tries to move the ball forward a bit too quickly, which results in these poor passes. And again, turnovers in possession, which is not ideal. It's not what you want in this area of the pitch. So Casemiro, no matter what you do from a tactical point of view, needs to be instructed and coached by Erik ten Hag not to move the ball forward too quickly, and to be a little bit safer with his passing. There isn't a need for him to be the most progressive player on the pitch all the time. He doesn't always need that killer pass, so Ten Hag needs to coach that into him. And to be fair, I think he is capable of it. We've seen it before in his career. Last season were his worst passing numbers. If you look back at numbers from Real Madrid, his pass completion rate was actually much better. So hopefully you can kind of get him to go back to that old Real Madrid way. But at the same time, you can help with system. And I think already Ten Hag is doing that with what we've seen in pre-season, where United are often moving to a bit of a 3-4-3, with the 4 in the middle being in a diamond shape. I think if you use Raphael Varane, Lisandro Martinez and Dalot as the back 3, Casemiro as a pivot, and then the other fullback, Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount in a diamond, I think you could have some success. Now, of course, as I've said time and time again since Erik ten Hag took charge of the club, but especially over the past 2 months, this is very rotational. It won't always be Luke Shaw in this left central midfield position. It won't be Fernandes here, Mount here, whatever. It's always rotating. But if we just take this as an example, I think it can work. Because what you're doing by building with a back 3 is you're actually putting a bit more emphasis on the 2 wider defenders progressing the ball rather than the middle one. So say in a different system where the middle defender might kind of progress the ball more, that would see Casemiro getting more of the ball and therefore being more responsible to progress the play. Whereas in a system where you have Dalot and Lisandro Martinez a little bit wider, these two become responsible for stepping forward with the ball. And then also what we have done in this system is surrounded Casemiro with technically secure players. Dalot here, Lisandro Martinez here, Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, all really good technicians who are much better at receiving the ball under pressure and then looking to turn in this middle third. And that could really help Casemiro, because once again there isn't this need for him to turn players and be too expansive. From this area, just keep it a little bit safer really, just keep it a little bit more simple. If United are building with a diamond, they will outnumber most teams in this area. So just keep the ball moving. You don't have to look for that killer pass like I've said already. Just keep things simple, get it to players in space, and use Casemiro as more of a pivot point and a cycle point rather than someone who's got to play the killer pass all the time. Just use him as this option where you go back to him and move the ball out the other side. So United might be kind of overloading this area of the pitch like this, but then they realise, okay, there's not enough space over here, let's go back to Casemiro, who's got the long passing range, to then switch the attack to the other side. Use Casemiro in that way. He doesn't have to be the one playing the killer pass forward, instead use him as a cycle point to keep possession ticking over. As a result, you would see his passing numbers increase significantly in terms of volume of passes but also completion rate, and that suddenly makes things ideal, because his defensive side of the game, we're still getting that in this area. He is still a ball winner, he is the main screener of the defence. I think all round it works quite nicely. So as we head towards the start of the season, do I have concerns over Casemiro? A little bit, because he does have a couple of weaknesses which may become exploited. But he is so good at certain other things that I think you put the effort in to mask it. Now to mask it you need the right personnel around him. I do think it is important to have Dalot at right back rather than Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Put a bit more technical quality in and around Casemiro. Give him technical players to work with to take some of the burden off of him. Again, like I've said already, this team isn't fixed. There will always be rotations. We've seen already situations where Lisandro Martinez steps forward and Luke Shaw plays a little bit deeper. But importantly again, Lisandro Martinez is a technically secure player. And this probably helps Rafael Varane as well, to be fair. If you use Varane and Casemiro as kind of the spine here, you've got their aerial ability, their strength, their dual winning ability, but also their leadership, kind of as the spine and the core of the team. Then put technicians around them, I do think it could work for Erik ten Hag, and for that reason, I think Casemiro will be a massively important player again this year. Do I think in 18 months' time, he might be replaced a little bit in the starting 11? Yes, and I think Amrabat, if he comes into the club, will be great competition, and even that could propel Casemiro to the next level again. But in terms of going into this season, I think Casemiro will be so important once again. I think he brings a lot to this team, like Rafael Varane, but like I said, with Varane, maybe 18 months, 24 months, we might see a change in the team. But for this year, he's going to be crucial. That's my honest opinion. But let me know yours in the comment section down below. Let me know anything else that you think. Casemiro, Rafael Varane, how Ten Hag can get the best out of them. Because technically they are a little bit limited, but they have so many other strengths. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.